Hi and welcome to Spiritual Link, the podcast, a podcast about how developing spiritual well-being can help you in your daily life and how that can enhance your confidence in who you are and what you are. The podcast is hosted by Inez and Tor. Inez is a development medium with over 30 years of experience in the field, and Tor has been her apprentice since 2013. In this episode, we talk more about regression, spiritual guides, and the power and the law of karma. You can support us by sharing the episode on your social media channels, subscribing to our podcast, and leaving a review. Remember, you can always find us on @spirituallinkco on Instagram. Hi Ines, how you been?
Hello, Thor. I am very, very well and looking forward to our Thursday as always.
Our Friday, yeah.
Friday, yes.
Me too.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Another week, yes. And I think, what is it, 6 weeks till Christmas or something like that?
It's not very far, is it? Is it even 6 weeks?
No.
Yeah, it's like six. Isn't it five?
Yeah.
5 or 6? Yeah.
Yeah, something like
Anyways,
that.
so
Yes.
close.
Yeah, I know. So do you have for the Christmas list ready?
Oh, no. Am I not too old for that now, Ines? Or will you ever be too old, huh?
No, 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 no.
I
And
mean, first of all, I have to figure out whether I'm going to stay in England for Christmas or if I'm going to be brave and fly to
wow.
Norway. We'll have to wait and see, I guess.
That's awesome. That'd be great. Because you get snow there as well, don't you?
We do get snow, yeah. Where my father lives, we do get snow. So just have to like be aware of the whole coronavirus situation, you know.
Yeah, yeah. So is Norway off of our list, or is it a clear channel, or do you
I
have
think,
to isolate when you get back? Yeah, at the moment.
well, that's the thing. So in theory, I could fly there and self-isolate, but the problem is I'm supposed to only be there for a week,
Oh,
you know.
oh, yes,
So it's not really enough time. If I was staying there for like 3 weeks, I suppose I could go and stay somewhere for like 10 days and then I could fly around to people.
yes.
But I'm only meant to go for a week.
Oh,
So we'll have to wait and
yes.
see. I think it is, from what I've understood, is that they will. I wonder if they will loosen the rules over Christmas, which probably is not a good idea because that just means it'll spread more.
Exactly. All we'll do is prolong,
Yeah.
our plight.
So I'll have to wait and see. I'm very undecided what I'm going to do, but I would like to see my parents actually,
Oh, oh yes.
and they would very much like to see me.
Oh,
So
yes. Day
yeah,
at a time, I suppose, a week at a time.
week at a time. It's all we can do.
Absolutely. I've been giving a lot of thought, as you have as well, because we just chatted about it, about regression. It is it's a large topic, of course, because what we're bringing into focus the pattern of karma. We're bringing in guides. We're coming in spirit. We're bringing in also the continuation of life that we have lived. We're going to live again, and so on and so forth. So it's a biggie. It's a very big subject. The analogy that I'd like to bring forward with regards to regression of getting the memory to open is if we refer to the mind as a computer, and we could say that the mind collection of information was the same as putting that mind collection on a modern computer, which means the mind collection of all of our lives. And all of our lives, I'm going to really jump into this, could also be when we were an ant, if we were an animal, a human being, what we would call extraterrestrial, all of those things, anything that has an aura is a life form, and we would have experienced it and would be part of the memory collection within our total mind. So that goes on to our little spiritual computer, which holds the information and can be restored at the push of a button. Now then, if it were intended that we were able just to push a button and would be available to all, it would actually cause a lot of havoc. If you can imagine, there's enough trouble already from the last lifetime that we absorb and bring forward. So if it was available to all, it would be mayhem in our relationships, in our work ethics, in our moral ethics, all of that would become a mess. No one is ever, as we classified, a good person, a kind person, a helpful person. We can also be completely and utterly the opposite. We can be, horrible, so horrible. It is only a matter of a learning situation for that spiritual being to move through that area. So if we killed somebody and our punishment would be either to be locked up for all of our life, how do we cope with being locked up, even though we might feel remorse at having done that deed? How do we react to being hung or executed in any way or form? It is always just a lesson. That's why we are not able just to push a button within ourselves to restore this collective memory. So what we're trying to do, what we're doing with regression, it does need effort, because not only that way, it's not always successful, but the effort that we put into it can be likened to a modernistic term of hacking. We're hacking our software because we can't just get into it. So we have to come in, let's say, through the back door. Although, again, I will always contradict myself because there's so much to this, although sometimes regression is also instantaneous, if it is meant to be. But let us say it is not, so we're going to hack our own files. What it means, we have to have enough sufficient knowledge and insight to learn the way to get into the system. And the basis, again, of that knowledge, of course, is meditation, the art of calming the mind. Very important, because the mind is what we're talking about. So the mind has to be like putty in our hands, that we can just all of a sudden find what we're looking for. But again, it's not that easy either. So if we're able to be that sort of personality, to dig into a system, to draw out a little, not all of the information that would be normally hidden, then what we're also doing, we're then coming to the regressive purpose of regression, which would be, in a form or another, would answer the question of life. Very, very important. So this answering the question of life is important for the reason that the one situation, which is understanding the question of life, it has to be believed that there is an afterlife, and that is an individual acceptance, not from a book, not from a podcast, not from a belief. A belief is not knowledge. What we're offering is knowledge for your acceptance, so that we believe that in that there is another afterlife, that there is another time. And the only way that this basic fact can be proven is to experience this act of regression, to experience that you have lived before. And therefore, it is literally the hinge on which the door of knowledge swings. Whether or not it becomes proving through survival, which can also be done through clairvoyance. You go to clairvoyance, medium, saying, oh yes, I have your mama here, and she says, oh yes, you're wearing her brooch. That's also a proof of survival, that mama, who no longer has a body, but she's still in spirit. So her memory brings forward the fact that she gave you this delightful brooch. And often it is also verified why you were given this delightful brooch. So if you can prove this to yourself, through yourself, that you have lived before and that you were so-and-so before, then wouldn't it behove us to accept the total fact of life after death, and the fact that we could and would come again? So I get back to the area of now I'll bring in the other situation in a moment. Sorry, listeners. But by getting your own proof of survival from your own memory store sufficiently strong enough to convince you, then you will believe, because it is the basis of all that we speak of, always speak of, whatever we will speak of in our podcast, it will still have to come back to your acceptance and realization that we have lived before, that we will probably live again, and so on, that there is this continuation of life from the beginning. Anything that is a living force, not breathing air like we do, and maybe there are different types of life, but they will have an aura. An aura indicates a life force. Okay. So if this is conquered, that you have, that's why we're speaking of regression, that you believe, you have seen that, you know it is available, then everything else has a better chance of being accepted or looked at a little more closely by yourself. And that's why we're bringing it forward. Now, what I have also mentioned through this discovery of life, which of course we come through, in this instance, we're talking about the meditative state that we're doing it, which is the calming of the mind through various means. That is meditation. But also, when we bring forward another lifetime, whether you're doing this on your own or whether you're doing this through a professional, I have often spoken of a guide. A guiding force is, of course, one that guides your physical life that has lived before, you have shared a life with before, is now in spirit, there to help you through your physical pathway, so that your spiritual awareness and path can be completed. Spiritual awareness is also feeling completely correct if you are not a very nice person. As I said, it is all a matter of learning. So everything is geared to our progression on this planet Earth at this time, that we move forward in our spiritual progression, whatever that may be, and also to enjoy life to its maximum, because that enjoyment is also a learning. We are meant to be happy. It is our birthright to be happy as human beings as well. But the happiness, of course, varies what we define as happy. So through our life, we do need guidance to keep on the two paths together. One is the physical and one is the spiritual. And the guide, even though they do not have a body and are in spirit, they are still able to connect and relate to us as physical beings. That is the difference. So a guide has been allocated. A guide is also sometimes referred to in various forms, a little angel sitting on your shoulder and so on and so forth. What we speak about is not a religious concept, but of what is. And that is somebody who has lived also before, with whom you have shared a life as well. And they're now in the position of helping you. And there are many different forms of guides that we have that we can call upon or we do not even know of, but they're all there to help us. And of course, karma is our pathway. One for the physical, as I said, and one is for the spiritual as well. The spiritual is the ongoing situation, and the physical, with its lessons, ends with this particular life. So it is the spiritual memory bank of all time that we're trying to hack. If you're trying to figure out what happened to you in your childhood in this lifetime, you're obviously still regressing. But that memory would be extracted from your physical mind, because it is still there. Even if you have been in a coma, knocked on the head, in a coma, don't remember anything, the mind, the physical mind will still be recording of what has happened. So we are able to, through hypnotherapy or other means, professional means, you're able to extract that information, but that's physical. What we're talking about regression, at the moment is very much the spiritual of all time. So we can go on to, let us say, the situation of regression. What is also very, very interesting with regression, not only finding the continuation, the purpose of life, which is to learn again and again and again, to learn, but it's also hugely interesting. The karmic links, because karma is ongoing, are very often found in the regressive state between two persons, between two people or a group of individuals. So that's very, very interesting. And I've had a lot of experience with this. This is absolutely fantastic. Doesn't matter if it's 2,000 years ago, 100,000 years ago, as long as, of course, we can recognize that situation. Very, very interesting how we, let us say, what social sphere, meaning perhaps you were a kitchen maid, then there was a librarian, and then there was some, perhaps a priest, but you all had different ideas of the religious concept at that time. So you got together, perhaps in secret, and you discussed the meaning of life, or what you felt God was, or whatever you felt. So, and now perhaps you're still with a group of people, maybe living thousands of miles away in different countries even, but you still have this same concept of knowledge. Where do we go? Where did we come from? And that trend of mindset can very often be found in the group of people that you are mixing with now, or between, say, two people. If it's a boyfriend-girlfriend situation, it doesn't matter. Why are you so close? What is the meaning? It's nice. It's a feel-good situation. Because very often the situations where one comes at the same time in the same place, virtually to come here, back to earth meaning, and link again, so that would happen. So what would happen is that we're back on earth again, roughly an age that's compatible, or even if the age isn't, which is good. And you can find out the reason for coming together is to continue the karma, of course. So that karma might sometimes bring forward a thought pattern of one that was with you, such as you can, let us say they were, I don't know, it could be anything. Maybe they were your supervisor, maybe they helped you along, maybe they were a healer, you were their apprentice, or vice versa. And now you're still in the situation of continuing that. You're still an apprentice, you're still learning. So regression has many, many wonderful concepts, but I also find that when I've regressed many, many times, which I absolutely love doing. But the most important thing was I was always very afraid of dogs as a tiny child. And the regression I'm thinking of was the last time I was, when I was born actually in the state of Montana, or what is now Montana. And I was a hunter, a hunter. And anyway, I was out hunting in the winter. And I was attacked by, I'm not certain if it was a bear or a group of wolves. Anyway, they had teeth. And it must have been wolves. And that's how I died. And that memory, fear of the predators who were killing me stayed with me. Once I recognized it and the validity of it, it went. I don't have that fear anymore. And this applies to many things that we might even really resent, hate even, and so on. There's a reason for that. And if we find the reason, we can clear the deck and move on. I found that one individual who was very, very agnostic, didn't believe in anything, nothing at all. So anyway, he did come for regression. And we went back to Pompeii, that area. And he was very devout. He had his temple in his home, well-to-do, a citizen at that time. He made the right offerings. He gave to all the necessary causes. Anyway, the catastrophe happened. He did get away, but his family were completely crushed. And he, of course, blamed God. And why wasn't his obedience and his contributions to the gods, why were they recognized, and why was his family taken away? So that thought, when he also eventually died, stayed with him, and now he has this attitude towards all religions, which is fine. You're entitled to that. That's not the issue. But with him, it was an issue. And once he saw that, he started thinking a little bit differently, and also opening the door to more of the more creative, intuitive side of himself. So there are many positive situations with, with regression as well. The whole situation always comes back to what one wants to do or what one feels one can do now. And it's sometimes very difficult, even, let's say, to uncover the first layer in regression. It sometimes happens one session, great, you've got your answer. Sometimes you're digging and digging and digging. It's very individual. But what we're trying to do by encouraging or promoting regression is to enable, if the mind is willing, it has to be a physical situation of allowing the mind to calm, that we're able to delve into the capsule of all time. The spirit that is with us in the sense of our guide, but then also the spirit is also with us. It's a different spirit that is around us, that contains our memory capsule, can help the power of our soul to open up the doorways to the memory. So memory is consistent of the whole facts, whether they be 1 second of time away or 1 million years away. The same pattern of thought is there. So if I'm going to stop there just for a moment, because it's quite a lot to take in. My mind is going forward also to the regression as well of other situations. With Thor, have you been regressed properly at any time?
I think so, yeah.
But you regress on your own, don't you?
Yes.
Yes. And you've had a lot of really interesting experiences, haven't you?
Yeah, I've had quite a few experiences. I suppose which one was interesting, because I did this, I listened to it was nice listening to your voice, because obviously I can do it myself, I can put myself into meditation and go and do a regression, but I was listening to the recording that you did a couple of weeks ago, because it's also nice to just lie there and be
exactly. Let someone else waffle on.
Yeah, have someone else waffle on, that's quite nice. And for those of you who have listened to this podcast before, know that my main guide is sort of this Roman general. And what was quite interesting is that on Sunday, I had another regression where I've sort of seen these Roman soldiers sort of attacking this village in sort of north of England, I think, because obviously that's how far they reached. And this time around, I was on the other side. I think I was just one of these farmers, one of these villages being attacked. That's at least the feeling I got. And it was just interesting to, I suppose, experience both sides of a very similar experience, right? So to have been shown that in one lifetime I was a Roman general, and on another
doing the slaughtering, that's incredible. Do you know there's this thing in the Bible says love thy neighbor as you love them yourself? Well, I don't know how much I love myself, but love thy neighbor is also a really hard pill to swallow sometimes. But when we look at the huge conflicts across the world, a little bit more understanding about the pact of karma that we have throughout our lifetimes, maybe it could help nullify some of the intensity of hate and mistrust that goes on around the world. As you said, you were one of the farmers. You quivered and tried to protect your family, I'm assuming. And on the other hand, you were the leader. Then you were the aggressor on a horse, possibly, with a whole slew of army, of men behind you. It stops hate.
Yeah.
Knowledge stops hate. It's not a matter of condoning. Oh yeah, go on, kill everybody. Yeah, it's your karma. That's not what we're talking about. It's a mind balance. What do you think, Thor?
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree. I think it was really fascinating because I haven't actually seen that before. That was something completely fresh and completely
Yes,
new to have seen being on the other side of that coin or just of that coin. I completely agree with you. I think, I suppose if people had a broader understanding of the law of karma, which is like cause
yes.
and effect, and that each and every life is a lesson, I think that could change our perception of other people and ourselves. Absolutely, I think so.
Yeah, I agree with you. Well, the guides also, the one that I said who have lived before, they come from various periods of time. But if you're linking in with a guide anyway, that is regression in itself. So
Mm,
your Roman general, Thor, actually, he could be alive now, in a very, not as a Roman, but a very different personality, and you could be tapping in the memory of all time. And what is chosen by this power of spirit is for you to extract the memories when you two were together, to give a
mm,
meaning of whatever had happened. So that's
yeah,
all regression. So the guides will control, sometimes, not always. And the difficulty is that sometimes many of the problems that are created in the situation that we find ourselves in now might well have been created in this particular life. So what we're also able to find out, if we go back, is where to unravel the problem, at least try to identify that we can at least do a little something about it. So sometimes, depending what the problem is, we would look back in time, but the difficulty, as I just said, could have arisen in this lifetime, perhaps in childhood or whatever. But that is also still regression. So if 1 second of time is to move back, we're still regressing. What does happen, as many people say, it is a different formation of events, but of course not so at all. If we say, oh, well, yeah, a minute ago, I'm very different to what happened 100 years ago, but it's not. When one says that that we take ourselves back into this life, they may say they take one back beyond this life. It's a lot of rubbish in a sense, because what you're doing is the very same thing as what one is doing by regressing back in time. Just a simple matter of directing the mind towards what is necessary. You could say 100,000 years, 100,000 lifetimes before, or could be this one. That is why many say it is not necessary, the time frame. What is important, perhaps, that the spirit will open the necessary area of time, which is guided at any given moment when your mind is calm and you are willing and you are want to proceed with that form of regression. What does happen with us? We are protected. We're always protected from unnecessary events that might disturb us unnecessarily. We only see what is necessary for the benefit of our life this time around. Because this life is so important, because it's the foundation, again, for the next time. That's why regression also helps a great deal. When a lot of times with regression, when we do the meditations, initially, because we lead visualization meditations, when I ask someone to see someone who's standing beside them, sitting beside them, holding their hand beside them, very many times I get the answer, it's a mother, father, husband, so on and so forth, daughter, whatever. It is safe. We knew those individuals, if they're in spirit, of course, we knew them. So it's a safe haven. Let go. Not let go of their memory, not let go of not seeing them, but stretch out your mind to see who else is standing there beside you. That is the force that never leaves your side, is a force you can count on, call on at any given time, because the regressive states, we're linking with our memory in a total way. And that, of course, is the basis. It is the basis of what we're trying to achieve, the reason, the understanding of life. Okay, I'm just going to stop there for the situation for the second. Thor, do you have any questions? I know you don't have any questions. Is anything you want to troubleshoot on what has been said?
Well, first of all, I just want to say that I thought the analogy that you used at the beginning with the computer and that you're sort of the storage and that you're hacking your own mind and you're sort of
Yeah.
bringing forth, I think that's a great analogy for a regression. And I suppose one thing which you sort of touched on it, right? Is I suppose we experience some sort of amnesia almost because we don't remember any of our past lives unless we sort of unintentionally go back or we like knock our head or something happens basically.
Yes.
And I suppose the reasons why we read it wouldn't serve our purpose to know,
No.
which is what you've said, because we are still here to learn our lesson this time around, right?
And you're meant to be who you are. You mentioned your Roman general. Well, you have a strong mind, Thor. But I have known of individuals who were Native Americans. It's an easy one. And then they start doing the ceremonies, their dances, and so on. The mind can become very unhinged. It's wonderful that you were a Native American, the person was Native American, so on and so forth. But you're not this time. You're living in a city, or you're living, whoever is listening to our podcast, that's where you're supposed to be. It's not a mistake. You're there for a purpose. There's a reason. No one's taken their eye off you because you're having financial troubles or love problems. It's meant. It's something we have to move through with our own strength inside of us. So sometimes the regression can help us to find that strength. Meditation can help us find our strength. It takes effort. But we are meant to be who we are now. Whether you're man or woman, be who you are. If we sometimes holiday someplace, either we like it really hot, really cold, whatever. Yeah, it could be that your last life was there. Enjoy it. If you have the money to go there and there's no COVID, go for it. But that's all. That's the beginning and the end.
Yeah, no COVID
Otherwise,
at least,
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
That's the thing.
You know, they now have virtual bus trips.
Do they?
Yeah, and what they're thinking of doing, this company that set it up, they're thinking of delivering the food that where you're going on this bus trip to your house so that you can munch on this authentic type of food while you're going on this, this illusional bus trip.
Wow. I suppose we have to live with this for a while, so we have to be creative,
Yeah. I thought that was cool.
If that's what you're into, you just have to be creative with it.
Yeah.
So I suppose with regression, like what's next after that in spiritual development, thinking about regression?
Yeah, that's right. But it's the base. It is the basis. You have to start somewhere.
Yeah.
And that is the basis that I can see that I've lived before. I can accept that. Then other areas can also be addressed. The other areas, if we're talking about exercises, of course, we're talking about the 5 known senses, and they can be enhanced. If the 5 known senses, touch, smell, feel, sound, what else is there?
I can never remember.
Touch, smell, taste, feel,
and hear, right?
Yeah. Good. There you go. They can be enhanced.
They can be enhanced, yeah.
Exactly, and that then becomes the 6th sense. Nothing wow about it, but when we go for meditation through our color tunnel, I ask people to lick the red. Maybe you taste cherry. Who knows? And so on, to feel it, to feel how gluey it is, to smell it, to enhance all of the normal senses that we have within our body. So that then brings us to the level of homing in on other people, not as a spy, but you get the feel of a person around us. And you know when to keep your mouth shut, to cross the road, or just offer help. What it does, it's not just to be a Samaritan. It helps us totally in our life. If you're going for an interview or you're looking for something to do, just sometimes chat to people, you're given an idea of where to look, what to do. It brings forward equality. And of course, all the other areas from psychometry to whatever it is, it's just fascinating. But the cornerstone has to be the acceptance of life, the continuation of life. A rock doesn't have life. It's part of a mountain. But a crystal is an entity in its own right because it is also born. It's drip, 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 but it's born. If it was just a random drip straight down, it would just be a straight little drip. But crystals form into little hexagons, they're round, they're this, they're that, all kinds of shapes because they expand themselves. And they also have, that's why in crystal books, you see perhaps because we have to say pretty ladies, young, but they're usually young people or little boys or flowers or anything like that, because that is then the entity. So it's still life. It's still life. And we're encompassing all of the life. The earth is a life form, breathing in and out. And there are many different types of mediumships that can be recognized. They can tell exactly what's happening in the world by seeing a rainbow. All of that, because the earth is life. It is also life form. And guess what? We're the sort of the fleas on the dog's back.
Yeah, making a real mess, aren't we?
Yeah, good one. Yeah.
So in terms of positive message for the week,
the positivity is we haven't been overlooked. Some of you will groan. No, we are not being punished. Plagues, these situations have always happened. And I think it is a wake-up call, karmic wake-up call, to minimize the toxins and to minimize all the other rubbish that we either consume and discard. But it's only a warning. We're not left alone to our own devices. We're cared for. There is a caring situation. Otherwise, we would just sort of drown in our own mess. So I feel very strongly that it's okay. Maybe it's time to work together a little bit more, that the countries, not just aid, I'm not talking about pumping money in. I'm talking about knowledge, how to grow your crops, how to get the well-being out of any country into focus. So no, I don't think we're neglected. I think we're okay. And I've heard some wonderful stories in these last 6-8 months. Very wonderful stories. They certainly outweigh the stupidity of it's my right not to wear a mask. I'm out of the age bracket that I'm not going to be affected. No, we all need to look after one another. We all matter, every one of us. I don't know if that's uplifting.
I think it is.
Do you know that one commercial I saw on television that some of you might have seen as well? They showed all kinds of interesting masks to wear on television. They had the flag, they had little teeth in it, they had flowers, blah, blah, blah. And it said, you can tell a lot about the person who wears a mask. And then they stopped for a second and they said, but you can tell an awful lot more about the person who doesn't wear a mask.
Yeah.
Yeah. Can you imagine if we all thought alike, if we were all alike, how horribly boring that would be? Diversity, good. Yeah. But let's look after our diversity.
I agree.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Inez, for
another
week. I think regression is a fantastically interesting topic.
It is.
And it's like you said, we can talk about regression till our face goes blue, but it has to be experienced.
It does have to be experienced. No good somebody telling you, oh, blah, 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 blah. Fine. Because let's say you do it even though you're half-hearted, it won't work. Simple.
Yeah, so it has to be experienced. So we did post a regression a couple of weeks ago. So if you're listening to this, feel free to go back, have a trial, see how you get on, and let us know.
Brilliant. Wonderful, Thor. So good to see you.
So good to see you too.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Spiritual Link the podcast. If you have any questions, comments, or wants us to explore a topic, please reach out on our Instagram account @SpiritualLinkCo.